Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting review, impressions of a knife that was loaned to me by one of my subscribers. Thank you so much. This is a Buck 112 Auto. I've never bought a Buck, I've never handled a Buck until he sent this in to me. So this is one of those original 112 Autos. This is, I believe, ebony wood. And this right here, the steel is, I believe, 420 stainless steel. So this is hollow ground. And this is considered the 112. The 110 is the traditional one. It typically is in a slip joint, and so he included the slip joint. This is from Lynch Leathers, which is really cool. I'll try to have a link for them down below as well. Lynch Leathers, they do some custom slip joint cases and like this. So this even has a nice clip to it and everything. And you can see how this fits right in there like that. So kind of a nice little slip joint, and then you just reach in to pull it out, I assume, like that, and there you go. But nice patina on this. Looks like it's definitely carried this. I think that's cool. A used knife is a great knife. So there you go. That's the slip joint case by Lynch Leather. So check these guys out. But this right here, ebony wood. You can see this is brass accents on the outside. It does have the lock back right here, so that's how it locks up. And instead of opening like a traditional slip joint, you push the button and it's automatic. It's not a super powerful automatic. It doesn't release the lock here. So this lock doesn't release. You have to still use the lock back like this. So it's still a very solid lock back here. You can see that. So that's interesting. It is 420 steel. So, you know, this is one of the older ones. They have some really nice elite ones that are in higher premium steels and even have a clip and everything. So if you like this, if this Buck appeals to you and you want to see a variation of that, you might want to check one of those out. I think it's carbon fiber, and I don't know if it's titanium over here. This definitely has some weight to it. And we'll get to that here in a second as far as that when we do our reviews, right? So, you know, definitely that's who the designer is. Now it is a Buck knife, just so we know, and we know that Buck designed this. So looking at that, I don't see, is there a name for the Buck, name for who designed it? No. Yeah, it's a USA design. It's probably been around forever. Some of you guys who really know about your Buck knives, you can give me the history down below. There's also a guy, another guy who does some great videos, and he did the history of Buck knives, which I think is really cool. And I mean, I'll see if I can try to link that down as well. He's definitely worth, Jeremy, I believe it is. He used to be at Blade HQ. Yeah, so really neat guy. He worked with Ben Peterson. They're good friends, and does a lot of videos with him. I think really neat guy to... I'll link that video because I think it's an outstanding video talking about Buck knives for sure. And if you haven't seen it, I think it's worthwhile. You can definitely see some beautiful patina right here on this brass for sure. So that's kind of cool. I like that. This is definitely a used knife for sure. It's got some weight to it. Like I said, it's pretty thick. It's a robust knife. Notice there's not a disassembly. These are pins, old-fashioned way, where they probably tapped them in and then polished them out and everything. So, you know, if you ever needed to take this apart, I don't know how you would. You would have to, I don't know if you could disassemble this, because even here, there's some hidden pivots you can see right in here, and those are probably polished out as well. So I don't know how this would ever disassemble, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it would. So, you know, this is one of those knives that, you know, I don't think you ever take apart. Fortunately, it's still very well dead center, which is really nice. And so you don't have to worry about that. I don't know if it's on phosphor bronze, what's inside, I couldn't tell you. So I don't know that either. This is just an impression, and I can't do an in-depth view of a knife that I probably will never own, and can't take apart and really dissect, but I wanted to talk about the knife because I wanted to experience the knife. And I can tell you, I can see you know, this is one of those historical knives. This is one of these knives, the 110 and then the 112, that really has been around forever and has a lot of history. You know, you can definitely feel the contoured shape. It's very nicely contoured all the way around. So, I mean, I like the materials. I do. I like the brass. I like the steel for being a 420C steel. I mean, it's nicely kept in good shape. Looks like it's been well oiled and polished. The edge is still relatively sharp. It looks like it's been used a bit. It's got a few chips there. So this knife has been used for sure, which is awesome. I think that's great. All right. The styling, it is automatic. Like I said, you have a push button automatic for opening, and then you have a lock back here that does to close. So that's kind of cool. All right. And I guess really it's a lock back with a button automatic that is spring loaded. So really you don't push the button to release that, but that's how it opens. So, and I will tell you that once you get past this, like right here, so one of the things that you know, like I know a lot of reviewers, they'll go right here to see if it goes back up. It doesn't. It won't go back up until you're down here. You've got to be all the way down here before that spring really has enough force to open it back up. So there you go. All right, so let's do a little bit about the measurements. Let's weigh this knife and grab my scale that's over here. All right, so yeah, 5.97 ounces, just about 6 ounces. So it's got some weight to it. Definitely a big knife for sure. All right, and let's go ahead and measure it. We'll go ahead and put that down, give us a full length of that. All right, so the overall length of the knife is just about 7 1/4 inches, right? So we can see that about 7 1/4 inches. Let me hold that up. So 7 1/4 inches. And then we can see the length of, got a little bit of dust there. The length of the blade we're looking at to the base of, it's right at 3 inches to the base of the handle. If we look at the blade itself, we're looking at cutting length is about 2 3/4 of an inch. Right, this is definitely a clip point, or yeah, I would call it a clip point. Some people might think it's Bowie, but it's not all the way out. So I would call this a clip point for sure. All right, so let's look at the handle. Handle length, we've got about 3 3/4 inches for the handle. So, you know, extra large hands probably can fit this. Double extra large hands, you're probably gonna have a finger that's gonna be coming over. So, because I have medium large hands, and mine are large widthwise, medium lengthwise. And so you can see I have a little room, so extra large, probably double extra large, you're starting to get close to the edge, and you know, you might be over there. Really no choke up position. You sort of could choke up. There's no jimping up here. You got to keep that in mind. So, you know, for the length of the handle, it's just something to keep in mind. I just wanted to point that out for the length of the handle. All right, so let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. I don't think I can do that with it in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it open like that and get my caliper here. Measure that. All right, so let's see what we got here. So we're 1/128th of an inch, so relatively normal thickness, blade stock thickness, right? It does come to a hollow grind, comes out pretty thin here, which is nice. So, I mean, relatively speaking, that's not bad at all, right? Knife category. So I was looking at this on Blade HQ, and this knife itself is about $190. So it's going to fall into your regular category. I would say it's less than $300, but definitely over $100 for the budget. So this is definitely a regular knife. Get you a nice close-up look here of this knife if you wanted to see it. Let's look at the back of it. You can see all these little pins, and you can see even how some of these pins, I don't know if you can get that angle right there, these pins have been buffed and really polished to match the scale here, if you will. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that blade. Here, I'll actually get you a nice close look up here. You can see the hollow grind there. It's not bad at all. And let's look at the back side here. All right. So, okay, so that's kind of what I would say. Now, purpose. I mean, this is definitely an everyday carry. I think people who enjoy buck knives, who maybe want to have something a little variant and they want to have an automatic, this is kind of a nice variation to it. It's definitely different, right? And I like different, right? Is this in my wheelhouse? Probably not. Would I ever buy and carry this? Probably not. But I do like to experience it. I mean, it's very historical. It has a lot of history to it. And I think for everyday carry, this is definitely a really cool knife. And if you like buck and that's your cup of tea, this USA made, you know, I mean, it's 440 steel. Like I said, you can get that carbon fiber elite version. I think it's probably gonna be a little more expensive than that, probably $300, maybe more, or close to $300. I have to look that up, but that is that has a little better steel and it has carbon fiber material, and you know, it's just different. It's probably a little upgraded version of this. I don't know if it can be a disassemble, I don't remember, but this is the one we're looking at. This is the original buck knife. It's the Ranger, the Buck 112 Ranger lockback, and so that's what we're evaluating and experiencing right now. But there are variations of this, so if you like this and maybe you want something more, just look around, right? That's kind of cool. Definitely everyday EDC carry for sure in this knife, I would say. Easy to carry around, easy to keep in your pocket, in your little slip joint, you know, little bag, whatever, pouch, for sure. Hard use, yeah, I mean, this definitely could be hard use. You could do everything you would do around a ranch or a farm or whatever, because typically a lot of ranchers like to carry these in their little, you know, button leather sheaths and stuff like that. So for sure, that would be something. I think you could do everything you could with a regular buck knife, especially with this lock. I mean, this thing is definitely in place. Now, there's a little bit of rock right here with that lock back, which I don't know if that's traditional. It probably is, but yeah, so it doesn't have a little movement, but I think that's okay. And it's definitely going to be able to do all the jobs that you normally would with all of those. I don't know, hard use. I mean, I think it could be regular hard use like you would with any buck knife, right? Is it a collection piece? Maybe for some, this might be a collection piece because it's nostalgic. It's something that reminds you of older knives that you've had. So I think this knife could be an EDC, hard use, and a collection piece, depending on what you want to do with it and what's the aesthetic for. The aesthetic appeals to you. How does the aesthetic appeal to you? What does the aesthetics do for you? That's what I'm trying to say. So there you go. Ergonomics, I will say, the handle's very comfortable. This fits in your handle really well. Everything's nice and rounded. Even this little back here is nice and rounded, chamfered. It's really comfortable. I have no issues holding this in hand. Right here, easy to get your thumb up here, presentation. I don't know about choking up, but I think you could choke up for a precision cut if you had to, right? So all that is really nice. The handle, I mean, the ebony wood is kind of cool. Not my cup of tea. I don't like wood on any of my knives. I have a few knives with micarta, and that's like the very few exception. I'm not even a big micarta fan, but I do have some micarta. I like carbon fiber and I like titanium. So those are my cup of teas, right? So as far as that's going, you know, the automatic works while still maintaining the traditional lockback. So that's kind of an interesting kind of thing. It's a lockback in the traditional sense, but it's automatic at the same time. So they incorporated two different styles, I think, in here, and kind of kept part of the traditional lockback, which is kind of cool. If that's what really appeals to you with as far as knives like this, that will really appeal to you. I think that'll be cool, right? So opening and closing, very easy. Only one way to open it though, with a button, but it works well. You just got to make sure you're all the way clear. When you're here, it doesn't close, and you've got to come all the way down here. Once you open it, it does want to open all by itself. So there you go. So there's no way to keep that button from not deploying. So it is nice to have a little leather sheath to keep it in here so you don't accidentally deploy it, because I'm feeling that in the pocket, I don't know, let's see, can we deploy it in the pocket? Yeah, we sure can. So you see, you got to be careful with that. You could deploy it in the pocket. So depending on how you keep it in your pocket, maybe you need to face it in so that you're not accidentally hitting the button. You know, that's just something to think about. So closing, again, lockback. Lockback works well, it's strong. A fidget factor, 1 out of 10. Okay, so this is not my cup of tea, but I wanted to experience it, and I really appreciate the subscriber allowing me to experience this knife, so I'm thankful for that. I would say the fidget factor on a scale of 1 to 10, this one's, I'm going to give it a 2. Okay, I'm sorry, but it's a 2. It's not easy to open and close with one button, so this is a multiple, one way to open, and then you have a different way to close, which is almost a two-handed close. So fidget-wise, this is not a knife that I would sit here and I would fidget all day with. So I'm giving it a 2 because it's not just a traditional open and close slip joint, right? Slip joint to me is like a 1. Now, it could get a 2 because it's a really cool slip joint, but most slip joints to me are a 1, but this gets a 2 because it's automatic. It has a different way, it has a unique way of opening, right? So I think that's cool. So it gets a 2. Now, fidgety goodness, out of those 2, I'm going to give it an 80. I'll give it a B, a solid B+. How about an 85? We'll give it an 85 because what it does well. I mean, it's traditional lockback works. The automatic works in conjunction with the lockback. So there you go. That's kind of cool. Now, you can't unlock it with the button lock. You still have to use the lockback. So, you know, there's that. But I'll give it an 85% for fidgety goodness. Out of the maximum of 2 that it can have, I'll give it 85%. You know, so, you know, there's that. And that's kind of my scale. Overall, my overall thoughts. It's cool. It's a very historical knife. It's very cool. It's got a lot of history. I think that's neat. I like that. I like the fact that there's some more modern aspects of this that I would at some point love to maybe look at that and see if it's more in line with more of a modern traditional knife. You know, it's got screws, you can take it apart. You know, is it a different type of lock? Does it have a different, is maybe not a lockback? Is there washers? Is there cage ceramic ball bearings? Can it be cleaned out and centered? All sorts of stuff, different materials, maybe titanium, maybe carbon fiber. I think that would be cool, but in this style and variant, it's not my cup of tea, and I'm not going to recommend it, okay? Now, if you love the history of this knife, I think you will love this. And so for those of you who love traditional Buck 110 knives, and maybe the 112 is kind of cool and you like the history of it, yeah, you might love this. I absolutely think you would love this, right? And I respect that because there's some knives that bring a lot of history and meaning to people, and that's really cool. That's what knives are all about, and I love that. Knives should have a story, and I think a lot of knives do have stories. And Individual knives have stories for us. Like I have my Safe Queen from my dad that he bought before World War II. That knife is probably not a fantastic knife. It's probably cheap steel. It's everything, you know, you could justify it. It's a piece of junk, but it's my dad's knife. It's almost 100 years old. It has meaning to me. And that to me is meaningful, right? So this knife, I think because of that history, because buck's been around forever, this knife could be really appealing to some people, right? But I'm not going to recommend this myself or for the channel. But, you know, if you love the style, check it out. It might be for you. But if you're looking for a more modern type of pocket knife, it's not really going to fit the bill. This is more of a historical piece. But I think the modern variant that they have, I would love to compare that at some point and see what's different. I wonder if that one is just a little bit different. So, you know, but I'm comparing the traditional Buck 112 Ranger with the ebony wood and the pins and all this stuff. This is you can't disassemble this or anything. So this it is what it is, but it's cool. It is definitely cool. So that's my thoughts. Hey, if you disagree with me or you like my comments or you think I'm an absolute idiot or you think, you know, that's kind of cool, please comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I like discussing knives. Even if we disagree, even if we agree. I like discussing knives because maybe there's an aspect, there's something here that I've missed and you want to point it out. Maybe I pointed something out that you've never thought of and you thought it was cool. I would love to hear from you. I do try to reply to my comments, especially as the channel is still, you know, it's not too overwhelming to do so at this point. I'm still mostly able to comment to everybody. Sometimes I might miss one or two, but I do try to comment with everybody, and I love to have discussions about knives. That's why I do this channel, because I love these types of discussions, right? So for instance, like one thing to point out, by the way, this doesn't release the knife. This doesn't release the lock. The only way to release it is the button, by the way. This releases the locked open position, and this releases the locked closed position. So you have two different ways to actuate. So you actuate for the open is this, and you actuate to close is this way. So there you go. Something to think about. I just realized that as I was pressing this. I wasn't sure if I was going to deploy it, but it doesn't. They're totally unrelated. Anyways, so those are my overall thoughts. That's my recommendation. If you have any questions, like I said, please leave them below. If you have any questions about the channel, any ideas, future reviews, any things you'd like to see, let me know. Ideas for Rob's Ramblings. I've had quite a few great recommendations lately, and I did a few Rob's Ramblings based on those, so thank you. All right, so if you found this content fun, interesting, worthwhile, or entertaining, would you please consider liking the video, hitting that like button down below? And if you've already hit that like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button down below as well? Subscribing and liking the video really helps out the channel, allows me to produce more content, do more things, and allows the channel to grow. Thank you. I appreciate that. And if you've done all that, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button down below as well. You can be notified of future content when it is dropped. That would be awesome. Hey, and if you've done all that, maybe check me out over on Instagram. Let me get my card up here. Check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.